Welcome to CHP Sports with Kenny and Anthony. I am one of your co-hosts, Anthony DeRazio, and to my left is not Kenny because actually I messed up the timing of our recording today, so that was my fault. So Kenny is not going to be joining us today. It's just going to be myself recapping this week's sporting events, or at least the sporting events I paid attention to, and talking about this coming week's sporting events. So obviously, I don't follow baseball. I know the baseball playoffs started. I know it's been quite exciting. That's about all I know. So I don't have much to say about baseball. Kenny would probably tell you something interesting there. I apologize. I'm not a big baseball fan. I can hear and see my father's disappointment already if he happens to watch this. So sorry, Dad. But yeah, I don't. I just don't care unless the Guardians, I guess now, were in it, but they are not. So getting into this past weekend's football, because obviously there were a lot of great football games. It was a ton of good college football games. I guess the two biggest ones that are worth recapping would be Iowa wins in Iowa over Penn State. It's a 4-5 matchup. Goes on the wire, tight game. I missed the middle part of the game, but I saw the beginning and ends. Tight game as kind of expected between those two teams. Sort of stereotypical Big Ten football. They threw it around a little bit, but mostly kind of slogging it out. And Iowa comes out on top, as Kenny and I predicted last week. It was tight, but they got the job done. Do I think they are on the level with a Georgia or a Alabama? No, I think they're very good, and I think if they could get, I don't think they have the speed to play with those two teams, especially on a turf field. On grass, maybe they could slow the game down and sort of slog it out. But when they meet those teams, you're never going to see them on a grass field in cold weather, where they're the advantages they would have would probably be biggest. So I don't see them being able to play with those teams. But with that said, their defense is really good. So who knows? The other big game, of course, is Texas A&M upsets Alabama. Kind of, I want to say dominated the game, but certainly controlled the game for the entire game. I think, from the first drive they had, they were moving the ball down the field against Alabama's defense. Their quarterback played really, really well. Made some really good throws. Made some plays on tough third and fourth downs, I believe. It was clearly the MVP of the effort by the A&M team. So well done to them. It was tightened up a little bit at the end, but A&M pretty much had control of the game the entire time. So big upset. The way Alabama had played, they didn't look touchable. They certainly were beatable because they were beaten. Do I see them losing again? Probably not, right? I mean, there was an article I read that the key to Alabama has always been the same. Get a quarterback that's pretty accurate. You can score enough points and have your defense hold up enough against their offense. Stop them a couple times, and that's the key. And in some ways, I thought the analysis, it was both spot on and also obvious, right? It's like, well, of course, right? If you have an accurate quarterback that can make plays, especially under pressure and on late downs, you probably have a chance of winning, right? And especially if your defense can make a few stops. If you don't have that, well, you're not going to beat anyone. So, A&M had that, at least for this game. Did a good job. And we are set up for an interesting, we're not even halfway through the college football season, not even quite halfway. And we're set up for a really interesting, playoff scenario. Excuse me. Where you have Alabama, which, assuming they run the table, they're probably playing Georgia in the SEC championship, assuming Georgia runs the table. If Bama wins that game, now you have a one-loss Bama team that's the SEC champion against a one-loss Georgia team that's probably, up to that point, have looked unbeatable and has only lost to SEC champion Bama. A&M will probably lose another 1 or 2 games. Right? So they're out despite beating Bama. They already lost 2. And then it's who else is left? Does Iowa run the table? If Iowa runs the table, then it's what you'll probably get Iowa in. I can't see them leaving out the 2 SEC teams, right? Certainly the SEC champion will get in with 1 loss. But if those are the 2 1-loss teams. If it's Bama beating Georgia for the title, the SEC title, they're probably going to let both of them in. So you have 2 SEC teams, Georgia and Bama. If Iowa wins out, Iowa goes. And then who's that 4th team? Is it Cincinnati, right? If Cincinnati wins out, maybe. Right? If Ohio State goes in, and I mention this because obviously I'm in Columbus, so I know sort of most closely linked to Ohio State football. It's what I hear the most about and see the most of. We're playing better. No, we're not. Well, the Ohio State team is playing better. If they go in, if they run the table the rest of the way and beat an Iowa, and win the Big Ten championship, is the committee going to overlook a Ohio State team that has 1 loss? It was early in the season, right? It was the 2nd game of the season with a young team that got better over the course of the year that then went and won the Big Ten championship. Probably not, right? It's a big name program. They will be playing really well for that to happen, and the fans travel well, right? So as a business model, like why would you leave them out? And I don't know what that means for Cincinnati, right? Does Cincinnati kind of get hosed in that situation? And the answer is probably yes, right? So I don't know what's going to happen there. I think it'll be interesting. I mean, certainly there will be more losses than we expect now, right? As always, there are more losses than you expect, right? So let's see here. Trying to look up what rankings. Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to pull up the rankings real quick. So yeah, so right now we have Georgia, Iowa, Cincy, Oklahoma, who's undefeated, right? So I guess Oklahoma's the other wrench in the system here. Is what if does Oklahoma run the table? Maybe. I mean, they should have lost that game, the Red River Shootout, which was the other phenomenal game this weekend in college football, right? Crazy game, back and forth. Kind of the opposite of the Iowa-Penn State game. Both games were very good for very different reasons, right? Iowa-Penn State was sort of a traditional good defense. Offense is not doing a whole lot, like enough to keep it interesting, but not doing a whole lot. Whereas, Oklahoma, the Red River game was just bonkers, right? It's pandemonium. Just touchdowns being scored left and right. So who, I feel like they're going to drop a game here at some point. I could be wrong. You also have Michigan sort of, sitting undefeated at ranked number 8. They haven't arguably played anyone. They won this past weekend because Nebraska fumbled a snap, I believe, towards the end of the game and gave Michigan a field goal to win the game at the end because of that. So I don't know. I don't see Michigan staying undefeated. I think they've just kind of played easier teams so far. That may be my Ohio State bias coming through. But I also don't think, looking at who they've played, that they've played anyone. They played Western Michigan, Washington, Northern Illinois, Rutgers. Wisconsin, I guess, is maybe okay. Nebraska, right? So maybe Nebraska is okay of that group. Not sure if anyone else is. Right? And to be fair, like Ohio State hasn't played anyone, right? And we lost the one team we did play that was someone we lost to, right? So, who knows? But it is interesting. It is setting up for, as usual, a kind of crazy ending to this season. So that brings us to NFL. Fun weekend in the NFL. Some good games. I think that the big games that came out of this weekend were Bills, going to Kansas City, and I hate to use the word dominating, but they winning somewhat comfortably. They looked really good. Josh Allen played really well, made some great throws, put it on the money, and Kansas City's defense has got to be fixed, right? If you're a Kansas City fan, that defense just has some issues. I don't think the offense has played super well necessarily, but they've got so many weapons. I don't think that's really the major concern. I think it's just the defense is just giving up way too many points. I don't know that they had a lot of injuries this week. It didn't seem like there were a lot of guys out for them. They just don't have a lot of huge playmakers on defense. They've got the Honey Badger, they've got Clark on the defensive line, and those two players are phenomenal. But it's hard for those two to carry the game when guys are running free in the secondary. Just too many breakdowns in coverage and guys getting behind the secondary. If you're a Kansas City fan, as for the Bills, they look great. They can't really run the ball, which Kansas City's been weak against the run all season long, and Bills were not able to really run it the way you'd expect, given that fact about Kansas City's defense. So, running the ball wasn't certainly the best I've seen from the Bills, but their passing game is on point. Josh Allen, looks great. He is a load. When he runs the ball, and he's super athletic. So, when you talk about running quarterbacks, I know Lamar Jackson is phenomenal, but Allen is pretty darn good. So, a much different runner, but very, very good at what he does. So, congrats to them. So, I would say that's probably the biggest takeaway. And the question you start asking is, well, how real are the Chiefs? Right? The Chiefs are 2-3, I believe, and they arguably could have lost. They were, I think, down in most of the games they won. If I can find it here. Let's see. Pull it up. Yeah, it's Kansas City. Let's see. They beat the Browns in week 1, but they had to come back in the fourth quarter. And the Browns kind of just crapped the bed in the fourth quarter. Lost the Ravens, lost to the Chargers. Eagles they beat. I didn't watch that game, so I'll assume they were supposed to beat them. So they arguably could only have one win, right? If the Browns don't blow it in the fourth quarter. Speaking of the Browns, that was the other kind of major game that was on the slate this weekend. So Browns against Chargers in LA. Real back and forth game, super high scoring, 42-47. Chargers win, come back. They scored 26 points in the fourth quarter. As a Browns fan, it broke my heart. I guess takeaways from this game from a very biased perspective, admittedly. Herbert looks good from the Chargers. I think the Chargers defense is suspect as hell, right? Obviously now the Cleveland offense is good. I don't think anyone's going to say the Cleveland offense isn't good. I think this game came down to two decisions. I think one decision was by the refs, so the other decision was by the coaching staff for the Cleveland. The first decision was the refs calling pass interference on a long ball. It was on a so this is what it's at with the old did this play matter that much? Well, it was a fourth down for the Chargers, 4th and 12 or 13. They throw a long ball down the sideline. Mike Williams goes up, basically is clearly grabbing the cornerback's jersey and pulling on it, and they call the Browns cornerback for pass interference. It clearly wasn't pass interference on him. If anything, it was pass interference on the wide receiver, which would have turned the ball over on downs to us inside their 40. I think they were at their own 30. And we were up a touchdown at the time. And so if we score there, it's a 2-touchdown game and it's in the fourth quarter. It completely changes the tone of the game, right? As it is, they end up, all of a sudden it's a 33-yard gain or whatever because of this pass interference. And then they end up scoring, it's a tie game, and then it was back and forth to the end. Now, people will make the argument, well, you had plenty of chances to stop them later. And that's true, and my response is yes, but we stopped them then. Right, the Browns stopped them at that point in time. They should have been off the field. It should have been done and over with. Right, you don't have rules if you don't enforce them, I guess. So that was one. Which whatever. To me, it would be less of an issue if it was just like a BS pass interference. But the fact that it should have been pass interference on the offensive end, clearly they called it on the defense was just more infuriating. The other decision was the Browns' last possession. We get the ball. Tie game. Or not the last possession, but the second to last possession before the Chargers scored their go-ahead touchdown. we get the ball like on our own 15. I don't even know how we got on our 15. I had my head down for a minute. And we put in Hunt as our running back, which I did not understand. I mean, Hunt's a great running back, but I would say Chubb's better, right? Especially since Chubb had been we've been gashing them, their defense with Chubb all game long. It's the drive, like it's the case where if we get this drive and we go and score and use a bunch of time, the game's over. And we put Hunt in, and we run the ball once with Hunt, and he doesn't gain anything. Like so, and we run different plays with Hunt than we do with Chubb. Which, if you watch Browns football all the time, you would know this. We don't run necessarily the same plays. And the plays with Chubb have been working better this game. Like last game, the plays with Hunt were working better, and that's fine. But this game was like Chubb and Chubb's plays were working a lot better. And we didn't put him in the game. It was befuddling to me, right? And so we gained like nothing on first down, and then that sort of set us behind the chains, and it was just a disaster after that. I don't understand people saying that like Herbert played well, but I will say that him saying that he outplayed Mayfield. I mean, Mayfield was 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Herbert threw for 400, right? So in 4 touchdowns, but he was also throwing against a secondary where I think our best guy in the second half was a third stringer, right? That like it was literally like both our starting corners were out. I think we lost our third string corner, so we were basically on like fourth string cornerback. Clowney, one of our starting defensive ends, who's been playing great for us, was out for the entire game. The one starting cornerback was out from the start, Newsome, and then Ward went out, I think, in the first half. So, yes, our secondary was trash during the game, but they were partially trash, I think, because, there's just not the starting secondary unit. That happens to everyone. It was the same thing that when we played the Texans earlier this year, a lot of their guys went out. So, what goes around comes around. It's fine. Herbert's good. It's hard to me. It's hard to say how good he is when he's playing against that injury ravaged secondary. Right, he made the throws he had to make against the secondary that was not communicating. So, they won. That PI call bothers me, but they won. It was a close game. Do I think we beat them if we're healthy? Yes, probably. Right. I think our defense plays a lot better. We shouldn't be giving up 26 points in the fourth quarter. And, I think anyone in the Browns would say the same thing. But, yeah, the Chargers look legit, right? I don't think their running game is great. I think it's okay. They ran for 100 yards. But, I don't think it's – they're making their money on Herbert, right? They're riding Herbert. And they'll go as far as he takes them. I don't think – whereas the Browns, it's much more of a – we'll go as far as our running game takes us, and if Mayfield's playing really well, which he did, he played really well this game. So we'll see. I think the Browns will bounce back. I think Chargers are the legit 4-1. Cleveland, 3-2. And the 2 losses are against the Chiefs, who it's hard to tell how good they are. I think they'll beat up on the lower ranked teams. I think they've had a fairly tough schedule. The people they've lost to are the Chargers and whoever else I just mentioned. Chargers, Ravens, who will always be a tough out, no matter how injury ravaged they are, and the Bills, right? So, I think the Chiefs will end up with a decent record, even if they're not quite the Super Bowl dominant team that they have been in the past. And I think the Browns will be good. I think the Browns have the Cardinals, which is another tough game, then the Broncos and Steelers. And so pretty tough stretch for the Browns. And the Chargers are going to play the Ravens next week. Again, the Ravens are always a tough out, I feel. And then the Patriots, I think the Chargers should win that. And then the Eagles, again, I think they should probably win that. So I think the Chargers will, they got a chance to put together a nice little record here in the next couple of weeks. So that's what's been going on in the world of major sports. Again, I know hockey's kicking off pretty soon here. I believe it's still the preseason. I think NBA basketball will be getting started pretty shortly as well. Relatively shortly. I think they pushed the season back a little bit. So let's make our picks for the NFL for next week. So let me pull that up 1 second. All right, sorry, I wanted to make sure I pulled everything up there. NFL picks for this upcoming week, which is week 6 in the NFL schedule. So first game, and I do have Kenny's picks. So I'll be giving you mine and Kenny's picks. He was kind enough to send them over after I mucked up the schedule for this week. So our first game, our Thursday night game, is Tampa Bay at Philadelphia. Man, give me Tampa Bay. I don't know how real Philadelphia is. I think Tampa is for real, at least that defense is, and I think the offense does enough. You're always going to get a few good throws from Mr. Brady. He threw, I think, like 4 or 5 touchdowns this past weekend. So I think Bucks over Eagles. And let's see, Kenny has the same prediction. He has Bucks over Eagles. Let's see here. The Jaguars are playing the Miami Dolphins. Where are they at? Oh, this is in London. In London, Miami versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's lost 20 in a row. Miami is, man, I feel like Miami is not playing well. They're 1-4. Their only win is against the Patriots in week 1. They've lost 4 straight. And they got pretty much blown out this past weekend by the Bucks. I feel like Jacksonville's gotten better. They didn't play well this weekend. I still think they're getting better. I think Jacksonville wins. Kenny actually has the Jags over the Dolphins as well. So I'm going to go with him here. Jacksonville over Miami in our kind of upset over the week in London. Green Bay at Chicago. Man, Chicago won this weekend. Man, I am not sold on Green Bay at all. Give me Chicago. I'm going Chicago at home. That pick can go horribly for me. But I am I know it looks like Fields kind of injured himself, and the Raiders are probably a mirage. But the Bears have won 2 in a row. Man, I just don't believe in Green Bay at all after this past weekend. So yeah, give me Chicago over Green Bay. Let's see, Kenny went with Packers over the Bears. Cincinnati at Detroit. Give me Cincy all day. I think they bounce back over this weekend's field goal fiasco. Kenny also picks the Bengals over the Lions. Houston at Indianapolis. Give me Indianapolis in that one. Home team, and I think Indy's pretty decent. Kenny picks the same. Colts over Texans. Los Angeles Rams at New York Giants. Give me the Rams. I think it's a big win for the Rams, even though they're coming to the East Coast. Kenny picks the same thing. Kansas City at Washington. I think Kansas City bounces back and wins this game. Let's see here. What did Kenny pick? Chiefs over Washington football team. Yeah, so he picks Kansas City as well. Minnesota at Carolina. Give me Carolina at home. I like Carolina at home here. Let's see. He picks Vikings over Panthers. So he's taking Vikings. I'm taking Carolina here. I think that will be a good game. I can easily see either team winning, but give me Carolina. The Chargers at Baltimore. Man. Man, I think the ball's rolling the Chargers' way. I think that's a close game. I think Chargers win. Let's see here. Kenny picks the same thing. Chargers over Ravens. Yeah, I think it's if Baltimore can run the ball, I can see them winning. But I also see Los Angeles scoring a lot of points. So I think the points win. Arizona at Cleveland. I think this is probably one of the games of the week next week. You got undefeated Arizona coming to Cleveland. Man, it's going to be a 4:00 game on Fox. All right, I'm picking Cleveland under the assumption that our defense is healthier. Kenny picks the Browns over the Cardinals. I will say if our defense is if we end up starting who we were playing at the end of this game this past weekend, if all those guys are still out, I would change it to Arizona. But I'm going to operate under the assumption that we'll get at least a few of them back. In which case, our secondary should be better, and hopefully our pass rush is a little better this week. So, Cleveland over Arizona as Cleveland's defense hopefully gets a little healthier this week. Vegas at Denver. Man, both these teams, it's hard to tell what they are right now because they've won against bad teams and haven't played well against good teams. It's in Denver. Let me pick Denver. And let's see here. Who are you picking here? Raiders. So Kenny's taking Raiders. He's going against his own team, the Broncos. But I think the Broncos do it. But man, I can see. I probably should switch to Vegas the more I think about it. Nah, I'll stick with Denver. I think we'll stick with Denver here. Dallas at New England. I think Dallas is playing well. I think Dallas has figured out what's working for them. I think Dallas wins that game. And Kenny has Cowboys over Pats. Seattle at Pittsburgh. Man, this is the Sunday night game. This is a game Pittsburgh tends to find a way to win. They won this weekend. And Seattle hasn't looked great. Man, I'm going to say Seattle. Kenny picked the Steelers. I can see that happening. And then Monday night, Buffalo at Tennessee. And give me Buffalo. Kenny has the same pick. Bills over the Titans. And then bye weeks for this week, or coming week, are Atlanta, New Orleans, the Jets, and San Francisco 49ers. So some early buys for those teams. It's a pretty decent lineup. I think there's some interesting games on the slate. I think that the big games are, Arizona at Cleveland. I think that's a good matchup. Green Bay, Chicago. It's in the division, and Chicago's kind of running a little win streak there. And Green Bay, I'm not. I think that'll sort of show a lot what's going to happen with that division. And I think Dallas, New England is somewhat interesting. Seattle, Pittsburgh, somewhat interesting. So those are the picks for this week. There aren't really that many interesting games in college football, I would say, for this week. The only one that is of, passing interest that looks halfway decent is number 1 Georgia against Kentucky. 2 undefeateds. I guess if that's the one game I'll pick here, I'm going to say give me Georgia. I don't see. They're playing too well. I don't think anyone beats them right now, to be honest. So that is it for this week's CHP Sports with just Anthony this week. Kenny will be back next week. Again, this was my fault, not Kenny's at all. So we will see you all next week. Have a great week. Take care. Peace out.